and welcome to another video of Come Fly with Lee. Today you join me and Chris as we are on the ground at Llanbedr ready to embark on our return flight to Sleap via Snowdonia, Llangollen and then finally landing at Sleap. So I'm very excited to share this video with you. It's not every day you get to fly over Snowdonia in an open cockpit aircraft, capturing the video that we've been able to on such a beautiful summer's day. So I hope you'll stay with us through to the end. If you've not seen our outbound leg from Sleap into Llanbedr, then I recommend you go back and watch that video. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, then please consider doing so, and it will alert you to other content that hopefully you will also enjoy. So in the aircraft now, we've got ourselves strapped in, we're all sorted, got the aircraft started, and we're now commencing our taxi out. So we're just going to taxi down by the hangar, just past the fuel, in an area which is sort of open for us to do our engine warm up, and then we'll do our power check before we consider moving forward, ready for takeoff. Now the wind's been a bit variable, but ultimately it looks like it's swung round from when we first arrived, and it's now mostly favouring runway 17, which is good news for us because it's going to mean a right hand turnout and a fly along the downwind leg along the coastline, giving rise to some amazing views. So we've now just completed our power checks and pre-takeoff checks, and we taxi forwards ready for takeoff. So we just come off the taxiway onto the runway. This is runway 17, which starts off with a bit of a taxiway, hence the yellow lines before turning into the runway. This is the longest runway available at Llanbedr, which is set at an amazing 2,188 metres in length according to the latest Poolist guide. Now we'll come to a stop here with the initial anticipation of commencing the takeoff run from this position, but then I quickly changed my mind and decided that the runway lights that are actually on the surface are actually quite large, hence why I'm not on the centre line, and I'm positioned slightly to the side. But taxiing forwards, I taxi past the threshold lights, which we're just approaching now, all the way across there, and I felt that they were quite big and could unsettle the aircraft during the initial takeoff stage. So once we've gone past them, we're clear, and then we come to a stop and we commence the pre-rotation sequence. So we turn the switch from brake to flight. We're going to set our initial power setting, that's the bottom left gauge, motor RPM, and then we're going to engage the pre-rotator with the stick centrally forwards, and we're going to spin the rotors up to around about 200 rotor RPM, and that's the gauge that we can see increasing, that's denoted rotor RPM gauge on the cockpit instruments. We can hear the rotors spinning up, getting faster and faster, and the gauge matches. Once we've got 200 rotor RPM or thereabout, we're going to release the pre-rotator button, bring the stick back and release the brakes, increasing the power, keeping an eye on the gauges, in particular the temperature and pressure gauges. We can see the airspeed indicator starting to build, keeping the aircraft down the runway, and now we're currently airborne. We're flying low level along the ground to build up our speed, ready to enter the climb. With our speed at around about 65 miles per hour, we can bring the nose up and we can establish a climb out. Just down the left hand side of us we can start to see the air traffic control tower. It's unmanned today. We are making blind calls on the frequency just for the benefit of any other traffic that may be in the area. We don't come across any aircraft in the circuit or on the ground at Llanbedr, but we do hear an aircraft in the local area. To the left of us we can see the windsock, which is favouring runway 17 with predominantly a headwind, as we just start to pass through 500 feet now. We've still got runway ahead of us. It's an indication of how much runway is available at Llanbedr, and then we start our right turn onto crosswind, and we start to appreciate the amazing views of the beach and coastline. Now, we're not wearing any life preservers or buoyancy aid type jackets today, and so the flight in which we do, we make sure we stay above the coastline itself. So if there were to be any engine failure or any requirement to land immediately, then we'll be able to put the aircraft down on the beach beneath us. So the flight today is midweek. There's very little people out on the beach. As we fly downwind, we can now start to appreciate the actual length of runway that's available, and we can see that the standard triangle pattern runway that's quite common with Royal Air Force airfields. Now, we've not got very far and already we're having a technical issue. The Sky Echo 2 in the back is failing to pick up a GPS position to talk to the Sky Demon in the front, and so I've just got a warning to say that we've lost GPS tracking. It's not an issue, however it is something that we'd like to try and resolve, so I'll just do a bit of troubleshooting and try to re-establish the internet connection between the two. I also carry a backup GPS receiver which communicates Bluetooth to the Sky Demon, and so that's the backup which sometimes I have to call upon, and so far has saved my grace. I also carry a map, as you can see, strapped to my lap, and this has got the route fully planned out as an alternative backup. But we managed to get the system back online, and we continue our flight. So here, just want to share with you some of the views that are available to us on this flight. They were absolutely amazing. The weather was great, and we're currently tracking in a direction towards the Port Maddock area before we then take sight of Port Merion in a short while. And just down here to the left of us now is Port Merion. Taking back up our heading, 12 o'clock, Snowdon on the nose. We start to think about climbing, gaining height in anticipation for the higher ground. We've got wind behind us, and so the climbing's a bit slower as we're not climbing into wind. We've got a tailwind at this point, and we contact RF Valley and we request a basic service. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video as we start to explore Snowdonia. join us over Betsy Coed, high altitude still, and we've unfortunately lost radio contact with RAF Valley. We can only hear bits of them and they can't hear us at all, so despite being high, the mountain range behind us, that's causing us a problem. We continue on track and hopefully you'll stay with us for the rest of the video, where later on we'll be flying through Llangollen, and before that we need to think about losing some height now. We've got the ground starting to lower away, and so there's no need to be up at this high altitude. So we've descended down, we've got the A5 to the left of us, and we use this as a hand railing navigation feature for this section of the route. For those of you that know the area, you'll recognise, or likely recognise, the go-karting track coming up on the left hand side of us. We continue on route and we fly through the Llangollen area, where we contact London Information. We tell them that we lost radio contact with RAF Valley whilst receiving the basic service, and we ask them to notify them that we are okay. We then contact RAF Shawbury before contacting Sleap, doing an overhead join and landing on runway 23 at Sleap. I hope you enjoyed the next section of the video, which summarises our flight around the Llangollen area. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and remember that there's plenty of other video content out there for you to watch if you've enjoyed this video. And thanks for watching.